there's pictures of me with like the machete, like clearing the way for the Toyota truck. So that was proper adventure.
All right. That's Buster Franken, founder of Fruitpunch AI, a community where you can join different projects and apply AI to solve real-world challenges. Imagine building computer vision models to identify different species of European wildlife to improve population monitoring, or constructing computer vision models that estimate the risk of diabetic ulcer formation. Sounds pretty cool, huh? Well, in this episode, we learned about Buster. He had jobs as a paperboy, security guard, chemistry teacher, even as an actor. And of course, we learned the inspiration for Fruitpunch AI, which now has over 2,500 engineers participating in more than a couple of dozen challenges. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode. So as you listen, feel free to find me on LinkedIn at Eric Melchior. Tag me, say hello. I'd love to hear that you're listening. And now let's talk to Buster. All right, Buster, welcome to Innovators Can Laugh. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Good morning. How are you?
I'm pretty good. So when I hear the name Buster, I think of, and you're too young to remember this, but there was a boxer by the name of Buster Douglas, and he beat Mike Tyson. It was like one of the biggest sports upsets in history. And so when I think of Buster, I always think of a boxer, but then you're Dutch, right? I mean, this is not a common Dutch name, or is it?
No, that's true. So my dad spent some time in the US selling classic cars and art. So he probably got the inspiration there. And he was also an avid boxer. So yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
He taught me how to box as well.
All right. So as a kid, did he like put on the pads and he like tell you, you know, jab, jab, hook?
Yeah, exactly.
So
there is
cool. So cool. I'm a big boxing fan myself. I actually had to take up the sport when I moved to New York, and it was so expensive to rent a tennis court. They were charging something like $20 for an hour. And at that time, I just didn't have that kind of money. So I took up boxing because it was much cheaper.
On the streets? Like, just pick out a random guy.
Like, hey man, let me try out this new combo I'm working on. Just stay right there. Well, that's very cool. And so was he a big influence in your life? Like, what was the best advice that your dad ever gave to you? Do you recall that?
Ooh, man, that is a hard one. What is the best advice? I think, I think, to be honest, and I'm going to be, I can't really do anything else but be really honest. I think that's a little bit who I am. I think there's a lot of things where I modeled myself kind of like in the contrast to my father. So I think there's a lot of things that I definitely learned from my dad, but also in how not to do things.
Yeah. No, I say the same thing.
I love my mom.
Yeah, I say the same thing. Like people always say, like, what did you learn from your parents? And specifically my dad, I learned a lot of things what not to do. I won't go into detail with a lot of those things. And I would say that he was very loving, and we were definitely important, my brother and I, in his life. But he had us when he was very young. He was only 21. So, they didn't expect us or expect me. And so he was very, very young. And so I kind of chalked that up into just being not ready to have kids at such a young age. So I definitely understand what you mean.
Yeah. But my mom, I did get like tangible. I also think that my dad just didn't give was not the advice giver. He would not like, hey son, listen up. But my mom would do that. And I did learn like some very concrete things that I use in business every day still from my mom. Like, for example, always having like, if there's something that's not going to your liking, always have a paper trail. And that's like right? Like it's partially like very clearly communicating about things to other people, but also like making sure that there is like, a trail of emails or anything, so that you're kind of built up this. And that's like super concrete advice that I've definitely used a lot.
Yeah. I can imagine growing a startup. I mean, especially when it comes to like investors, employees, maybe partnerships, that advice definitely kicked in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Or over communicate and under communicate.
Yeah. All right. Now, before we get to Fruitpunch AI, I want to know about your background. You had a variety of different jobs, and some of those jobs include security guard and a teacher. And let's see here. I think there was even an acting gig at one point. So you definitely the Renaissance man Buster, tell us more about that. Like, what was your first job growing up, and then what did that lead to after that?
Yeah, so the first job was the first real job was being a paperboy. But before that, I did have like some kind of entrepreneurial activity. We have something in the Netherlands, which is like the birthday of the monarch, you know, and back then it was Queen's Day. And it's the first time I earned real money, where I would earn like 250 bucks in a day selling virgin cocktails called Mix on Tricks, which is like, you know, Beatrix was the name of the queen, and like do it like real fancy and like, that was my first kind of like entrepreneurial experience, I would say.
Like in the park or like in front of your house or what? Where did you set up?
Yeah, it was basically a lemonade stand, but it was very committed. You know, it had like the sugar, you know how he puts sugar on the edge of the glass, and then like a little fruit stick and, you know, parasol. Yeah.
How old were you?
I think I was 10 or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And then after that, paperboy, and after that, actor, actually. So I...
Wait, the paperboy, were you on a bicycle?
Yeah.
Of course, right? Because everybody rides a bicycle in the Netherlands, right? Is this Amsterdam or another city?
This was in Maastricht, which is in the south of the Netherlands. So you have kind of like the little foot. Yeah. Like the Netherlands looks like a lion, kind of, you know, with like the tail, and then there's the little foot. And it was there. Yeah.
Were you pretty good at like tossing the newspapers at the door?
Oh, that's not considered acceptable. You have to put it in the
really?
Box. Yeah. No, so that wasn't an option.
You mean to tell me like the paper boys didn't just toss the newspaper and the door or the sidewalk?
Yeah, no, you have to remember that, you know, everything is much more kind of like, houses are much more crammed together. That's one thing. And it rains like, you know, half the days.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I
guess paper boys in the States have it much easier then.
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And after that, I always did a lot of plays from very young on. And then at a certain point, I got into like a more serious play, for which I was also paid a little bit. And then after that, I was introduced or scouted by a casting agency. And then I did some commercials, which paid very well. Like still to date, the best, the kind of like, if you go by hourly rates I ever earned.
What was one of the commercials, Buster?
I did one for IKEA. I did one for ING, which is like a big bank in the Netherlands. Yeah. And the one for IKEA actually went all around the globe. I was in there for like, you know, a few seconds, but yeah, that's commercials. Right?
This is like late teens or what, teenager?
No, early teens. I think I was 14. Yeah.
Okay. Very, very cool. So you're obviously comfortable behind the camera then?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I like, you know, I like being on stage. That has always been easy. You know, it's exhilarating every time. My heart like beats really fast still, but I really like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So for a lot of people, speaking in public, which is kind of like being on stage, is like their worst fear. The heart starts beating really fast. Some people start sweating. You got butterflies in the stomach. Did you experience any of that? And if you did, did you have any tactics or strategies to like overcome those feels? Like, did you tell yourself something to get prepped?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So, I mean, I do get like a lot of those things. I think everything except for the sweating, but yeah, I like that. So I don't, you know, it's never when I get that, I'm just like, you know, it kind of like just tells me that I'm on the right path.
Buster, I think I know what you mean. I call that feeling being alive.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I think I've only had that feeling maybe a handful of times.
Yeah.
When I'm about to really step out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And do something that either this is going to be like a big win for me, or this is going to go in spectacular failure for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think a lot of people never have that experience or that sensation or that feeling in their lives before because they just don't want to take that risk. But it sounds like you love that.
Yeah, and I think that might be like something also unique to entrepreneurs that you know, that you kind of like, that you like that feeling. Otherwise, it's hard to survive.
Yeah. Okay. So you're an actor and then you're doing okay, right? What prevented you from going down that route? What happened next?
Well, yeah. So, I like kind of everything that I did until I started Fruitpunch was like a bit random, and I would just go with whatever next thing came up. So it's kind of a shame. Like, I have no idea what would have happened if I would have pursued the acting path, because people did tell me like, oh, you should really do something with that. But I didn't have kind of like the structure. I think I'm like really in some ways like a late bloomer, that only very late I kind of developed the kind of structure and discipline to just spend, let's say, 80% of my time on one thing and consistently do that. And from the moment that I was able to do that, kind of like, then you get the compound effect, right? And that's when, I started to get some more conventional success, I think. So yeah, it's a shame. I don't know. I actually, the funny thing is that I think I stopped acting altogether at like maybe 16 or 17. And I recently subscribed for acting lessons again. So it's 10 years later.
Now I want to get my kids in drama because they're so introverted. They take after my wife. Right. They're very shy. And I'm always trying to like, even their coach nudges them in the back, like, hey, go out there and play and kick the ball. And they're very skillful. They're very athletic, but when the light's on, the camera's on, they get so shy. So I think maybe when they turn 6 or 7, I'll try to find like a drama class for them to kind of get out of their shell a little bit more. And so that way they can just kind of build up that confidence as the years go by. So very cool that you're looking to go back into acting, because as an entrepreneur, as somebody that's trying to tell a story, share their vision, get other people to buy into the vision, it's so essential. So now you're also like a developer, you became a teacher. Now we don't have to go into each of those gigs, but what was a gig that you had this light bulb about Fruitpunch AI? And then tell the audience, what it is, because to me, I find it so fascinating. I think I went down the rabbit hole this morning looking at your website and looking at all the various projects that are happening.
Yeah. So to like very briefly, I can tell you about the light bulb moment, but also definitely, from each one of these jobs, I learned something that is really relevant to dealing with people, right? It's all different perspectives of dealing with people. Acting is about convincing, like taking people into your world, into your story, and letting them believe that. And doing security is also, I'm not the biggest guy, right? I mean, I might not see it now, but
you got the nickname, but it doesn't match the frame of your body.
Yeah, exactly. and so I was never like the meathead that could like, drag people away. So I always just use my words, and that worked out for me every single time. And then
wait, don't, you got to tell us the story of when you had to use your words on a patron to get like your point across or prevent him from going inside the bar or whatever. Like what happened? Tell us the story, Buster.
Oh, man, there's so many stories, because I did security mostly at hardstyle festivals. I don't know if you know that. Like,
what is that?
At Subculture. I think it's very popular in the Netherlands. It's kind of like these festivals, like kind of known for a lot of drug use.
Okay.
And like, like really like this kind of music,
Yeah.
But it's generally very nice people. And I think like, I had, but usually with security, I think people don't mean harm. So they don't mean to do anything wrong. So that kind of helps, I think. Oh yeah, I think the best story is when people try to actually get into the venue. I was guarding one of the exits, and at a certain point, they even tried to bribe me to get in. And yeah, but intellectually, I can just run circles around people and kind of like, so it's a fun game for me,
Yeah. So somebody was like trying to like slip you some money under the table, and what was you like? No thanks, man, or. It's like, that's not gonna work.
Just first pretending that I don't understand what they're trying to do, while stating the rules again, and then saying stuff like, oh yeah, well, maybe I'll just get my superior to figure out, what, because I don't. And then at a certain point it lands, like that it's not going to work.
Yeah, just playing stupid. People are like, this security guard doesn't even know we're trying to I slip him some cash so we can get in. He just doesn't get it, but you're over here just pretending like you don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Get them to play my game. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you miss that? I mean, was that a lot of fun being security guard?
I mean, it was fun at times, but to be honest, like I would work 12 to 18-hour shifts, like with one break. And most of the time was just standing at some exit, you would shift around a little bit, but then definitely you would spend like 8 hours just at some exit where nothing happened. Yeah. So I think I have a bit of a romanticized view and I wouldn't go back to it. But it was really the teaching where I had the light bulb moment where I saw that, kind of like the huge impact that you can have by motivating people in the right way. Like I was never the person that knew the most about the subject matter. I'm very comfortable saying that, but I was the person that could look at each student and kind of figure out what would be the thing that would make it interesting for them, what would motivate them, right? And that is what I always used. And that is definitely also what led to Fruitpunch AI, because such a big part of it is motivation in teaching. And what we do with or skills training, right? Or whatever. And what we do with Fruitpunch in the end is just next to having a direct positive impact. If you look at like what the effect of that is on the motivation of people, is that it's just tremendous. It's so much better than doing theoretical exercises. So
yeah, what were you teaching, Buster?
Mostly chemistry. Yeah.
Okay. I'm laughing because I flunked chemistry 3 times. And chemistry is the one thing that kind of like is the most difficult for most people for some reason. I don't know. And you taught it.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're like this sort of like, a semi-genius, maybe you're a genius, but you're hiding behind the occupations of like a security guard and an actor, and some of these other things. And then what was the light bulb moment? You're in class, you're teaching, and was there like a specific, period or class or even student, and you thought, you know what? These kids have some really good ideas here. How do we like take their ideas and combine it with AI and do it, just for projects that could really, really make a difference in the world? Like what happened?
Yeah. So to be honest, it wasn't, I definitely did take experience from the teaching job, but it wasn't that which triggered starting what I do with Fruitpunch. So do you want to hear the story of like what triggered kind of Fruitpunch?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that was really that I found my own education lacking. So I went to university. Because the acting also meant that I went to like a high school, which was specific for people that wanted to go to either theater school or art school. Kind of like, you build your portfolio there as well. And then at the very last moment, I decided to go into engineering because I thought like I had like my first real existential crisis. And I thought like, okay, there's artists that have a positive impact on the world, but there's definitely more engineers. So I decided to go into engineering with this idea of like, I'm going to have a positive impact. And then it's just like, the reality is just years of, doing very highly theoretical exercises. Right. And I did do some interesting stuff. Like I specialized in neuroscience and robotics. I did some research in brain computer interfacing, then started a master in AI. And then I was kind of got fed up by that. In my master's, I was still like just doing theoretical exercises. And that's when I decided to just go looking for a way, for a more motivating way, and also a way in which I could have a direct positive impact while studying. Because I just thought like, it's bullshit that you need to, like, doesn't seem like of this time, like 3 to 5 years of studying and then getting in contact with kind of like the real world. And then I shall I just do the whole story now?
Yeah, no, go ahead. It sounds like you're in theory or you're studying for your master's, and maybe that's when the light bulb moment came off that, hey, I don't have to wait until I graduate to actually start making an impact. At least that's the way I hear it.
No, exactly. Yeah. I had that hunch. And then somebody, I was kind of like looking for some kind of project to pick up myself. And I got in touch with a Dutch entrepreneur who was down in South Africa. And he just happened to be like an hour away from where I lived in the Netherlands when I got in touch with him. So we started talking. Peter Boon, rest in peace. And he wanted to do something about the poaching crisis in South Africa, the wildlife poaching crisis. And we came up with this plan to do a call to action on the radio in South Africa to wildlife reserves, asking if they wanted to innovate with AI. And we got like an overwhelmingly big response. And then I was like, okay, shit, I need to go to South Africa. I need to figure out like exactly what this, it's kind of also, it's kind of also an excuse but that's like a lot of big steps in my life have been a mix of like something which could be something really cool, but also kind of an excuse to go on an adventure.
Yeah. So all these people are saying, we want to help. And you're like, oh shit, we got to do something about it now, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I went there, and then we got a call from a guy, Robbie, from SPOTS, which stands for Strategic Protection of Threatened Species, who was up in Pilanesberg, as the Boers would say. And that's like one of the bigger reserves. They were already flying with drones, but they basically had scaling issues, right? Because these drones, you need like 3 to 5 personnel to operate them, big fixed wing drones. And that they could only do that. They only had the means, the resources to do that, 3 days a month, let's say. And of course you want to patrol much more often than that. So I went to Pilanesberg and I did like the whole surveying. I went with them on the drives in the night to search for poachers. There's pictures of me with like a machete, like clearing the way for the Toyota truck. So that was proper adventure. And then I thought like, okay, we have to solve this problem because I saw some gruesome stuff as well. I can send you some pictures afterwards if you like of the, we would get back to base camp and there would be these skulls of these rhinos and you could see the X marks in the kind of like the front part of the skull where they took out the horn. And I thought like, okay, I really want to do something about this, but I definitely don't have the skills at this point to like solve this problem. So then I decided to, do what any entrepreneur would do, I guess, and get other people that are better than them to solve the problem for them. So I recruited the AI engineers from across the globe through like a little bit of a social media campaign. And that's how we started the first challenge. And it turned out to be super successful for this project. We kind of like did the first sprint to develop this autonomous drone with thermal cameras to search for poachers in the wildlife reserves and built this scalable solution. And then I thought like, okay, we can do this more often. This is a great way for people to learn, but also to like bring AI to a place where resources are scarce. And that's how Fruitpunch started.
Yeah. So recruiting through social media, was there like one primary channel that you were using? And then what was like the main message that you were, shouting for help?
Yeah. So it's always been LinkedIn for us. That's just, we have used Instagram in the beginning and definitely our chapters, we call them. It's kind of like volunteer activities within the community. They use Instagram a lot because they're more active amongst the students. But LinkedIn has always been the big one for us, and always organic, like just campaigns where we just play into, the AI for good angle. Like people want to help. People really want to help. They want to do something meaningful with their skills. They want to develop a portfolio. That's something which is very important to AI engineers. If they want to get a good job, they have to show that they're able to apply these skills, right? Like just having a diploma is not good enough. You can get quotes from like, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk saying like, I don't care about your diploma, right? They care about what you did. So these are some of the messages that we used. And
That is so cool. Is there like a specific hashtag that you guys are using? Is it AI for good or something else?
Yeah, AI for good is always in there.
Okay.
And then we always like use the hashtags from the specific sustainable development goals that we're tackling. So hashtag SDG and then the number, because people are also looking for that. But all our challenges are always linked to one of the 17 sustainable development goals. And besides that, we always tag the specific technologies that we're using in this case. Because people are also following those, you know, like object detection or large language models or whatever. Yeah.
Now, during this time you were in South Africa, were you just living on your savings, or like how were you getting by, Buster?
I was, yeah. Yeah. So I was definitely living on my savings. The whole story of how I went to South Africa is even like more random, but I don't think we have time for that. But because I took my girlfriend at the time. So I was definitely just living out of my savings, and I've done that quite a few times. And I think, you know, now I'm starting to build a little bit more kind of like long-term financial security as well.
Yeah.
But it's definitely the privilege that I've had, that I've always, you know, my family is not well off at all, but what I definitely learned was just to hustle and to work, and I just never had a problem making money. So I always looked at it, you know, like this, like money to me has always been kind of like just actually to get back to the advice from my dad, but I very like kind of like, I don't know if this is like a good thing. So that's why I didn't say it directly, but he always said that money should roll. This is like, you know, this has some bad sides to it, but the positive side to it, I guess, is that I always really looked at money as a tool rather than something that I should really save or, yeah.
No, I've heard that. I've heard Naval, or I think it was Naval or other people say that the wealthy, they look at money as a tool. That's what it's there for, you know, to use it properly as a tool. Now, I saw one of your social media posts that you partnered with Colgate University. So is that starting to be like another strategy that you guys are having to get the word out about Fruitpunch AI, is by partnering with different universities, working with them?
Yeah. We did that from the start, I think. So the most relevant, like the most relevant target audience for us is not really university students. Like they can definitely join, you know.
Okay.
We always have kind of like our budget for the more junior people, but meteor and senior people are obviously very important in these challenges because we also want to deliver real results next to teaching people something. So there's definitely space for university students, but it's not our like main focus area. And most of the collaborations that you see that we do with universities are actually with their research centers.
Got you.
So they provide the challenges. So for example, that's the combined research center from Colgate and Stanford. It's the Elephant Listening Project. I think that's the one that you're referring to. Oh no, actually Colgate, sorry, that was Cornell and Stanford. Colgate is the AI for seals, SealNet. Yeah. So that's their marine like coastal ecosystem monitoring research center.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So on the website, there's all kinds of projects. You got AI for air quality, AI for impact assessment, and AI for pelicans, which is actually in the Delta, and the Danube Delta here in Romania. I'm in Bucharest, so it's actually not too far from me. How does somebody go about submitting a project? Like, what does that process look like?
Oh, yeah.
And then also, how do you guys determine which projects to pick?
Yeah, very good question. So you can just send a DM to me on LinkedIn, like go through the website. I mean, we have a web form for this stuff, but it doesn't really matter how you reach out to us. That's all fine. But then the most important thing is, first of all, that there is a clear link to one of the sustainable development goals. Otherwise, it's a hard no. And then the second thing is like, do you have the data? Because we're not the domain experts. We're the domain experts on the side of AI, right? But we're not the domain expert on whichever domain somebody is in, like, you know, healthcare or so. They need to have the data. We can very easily work with like NDAs. We've also used federated learning. We've done like, you know, on-premise stuff. So the data doesn't have to be open sourced or anything like that, but you need to have the data. And then after that, just a clear problem statement, but we can figure that out together as well. And then usually we do most of the heavy lifting on the side of defining the deliverables, defining the challenge. And of course, recruiting everybody and then managing the project.
Okay. And so if you're an AI engineer and you want to help out on one of these projects, do you just like sign up and then you get like notifications when a new project pops up that you may be interested in? How does that work?
Yeah. So you can go to app.fruitpunch.ai and make an account. And then you do a little bit of a self-reported when you're new. You do a little bit of a self-reported, like, skills assessment. Then based on that, you can apply to different challenges. You can also join education material, masterclasses, boot camps, all of that kind of stuff. You can find out if there's a local chapter where you can have some, real world interaction with other fruit punchers, which is something really cool, like kind of like mind boggling to me still that there's like, just like over 150 people in Uganda that are that feel that they are a fruit puncher, right? So this is something that I think is really cool that you can get together with other AI engineers. And then when you're new, we usually just try to, like I said, we have kind of like a budget of like a 40% of more junior people. When you're meteor or senior, this usually becomes quite apparent from your LinkedIn, and then we let you into one of these challenges. And then once you have done a challenge with us, that is kind of like our strongest indicator if you performed well. Okay. And then after that, it's very easy to join other activities as well.
Okay. Question here. Dumb question. Are any of these people compensated for when they do these challenges?
No. So
okay.
all the challenges that we do are non-profit.
Okay.
So, and this is kind of our way from the beginning, right? The stuff that we did with the wildlife rangers as well is our way to bring AI to a place where resources are scarce and create a positive impact. So it's kind of like a very structured open source project, right? These open source projects, usually they run over a bit of a longer time, and we've kind of tried to optimize this project, this format of an open source project. So we also open source everything that comes out of it. So you sign away the intellectual property rights of the code and that kind of stuff, and we then open source it under a copyleft license. And yeah,
Buster, this is so cool, so cool. For a question for you personally, what do you think is the best indicator that you're doing a good job running Fruitpunch.ai?
Okay, so in terms of the challenges, I would definitely say just that the challenge owners, whether it's Stanford and Cornell with the elephant listening research lab, or the medical centers that we work with, or whatever, that after one of these challenges, they very consistently come to us and they're super impressed by the results, because we really go the extra mile, right? We don't just develop the machine learning model. We go from dirty data. We always say we go from dirty data all the way to an implemented solution. So we built some software tools around it as well. And kind of like that always really hits me when we have like one of these final presentations. And then, the gratitude, from these people that we helped out. Yeah. That's like right in the feels. I've definitely cried multiple times when they're like doing their kind of like closing address where they're like, oh my God, this is so great.
Cool.
This is really going to be game changing. Yeah.
I've got some rapid fire questions for you. Just give me the first answer that comes to mind here. What is an unusual food or drink that you consume, Buster?
Oh, I want to say something really fun. Tomato juice, I think. I like tomato juice. Is that random? I like papaus.
I haven't seen a can of tomato juice in probably 15 years. I'm just thinking of those little cans of tomato juice. Okay. Yeah. I imagine they're healthy for you. I mean, right?
Yeah, but very Dutch answer is kroketbroodje, which is like, I can't translate that.
Okay.
Basically like fried, like Dutch cuisine is like non-existent, basically. The only thing we have is fried stuff, like deep fried stuff. It's basically deep fried stuff on a sandwich. That's okay. I guess the funky
All right.
stuff.
Another question. What's the most interesting thing that you did in the last 26 days, Buster?
In the last 26 days. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to go really fringe here. I got into a proper fight last Saturday. No, but it was good. It was,
skills, right?
Yeah. This is more wrestling. but I'm part of this community called Sigma Squared Society. It's really cool, young entrepreneurs from all across the globe. And we gather, every few months we gather like in one place. So I was in Warsaw, and I have this friend, Suza, and we just get up to the craziest shits. We kind of like are both intense, and then we meet each other and we just like, and we like came up with this idea, like, oh, you know what we should do tonight? We should fight. Like in one of these bars, you should like make a ring and we're going to fight. So I did like one leg and one arm, to make it fair. So I had like one arm and one leg behind my back. And we did like proper like 3 rounds of full on fighting. It was very fun. I think that's the craziest thing I did.
So why did you do that to make it fair? I mean, why? Because is he in a wheelchair or what? Like she?
So
okay, she. Okay.
Lighter than me, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Nowadays, I mean, you watch some of these like UFC, women fighters, and I'd be a little hesitant to actually jump in the ring with some of these women fighters.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. Did she kick your butt? How'd it go?
Oh yeah. So in the second round, she really got me, and I had to tap out. Like she choked me out. Yeah. I like to just like, you have to live life to the fullest, right? Otherwise, what's the point? So I like to do this kind of random stuff.
Yeah. All right.
The more politically correct answer, I guess, is that we just raised the round. So I hope that if this comes out like somewhere beginning of next week, then it will be public knowledge. So that's fine.
To celebrate, you guys will go at it another round, huh?
Yeah. Of funding, I meant.
Yeah.
But
okay. Now, hey, speaking of funding, what's a funny reason why you would ask for an additional $10 million in additional investment?
What's a funny reason?
A funny reason you would ask for $10 million in additional investment.
A funny reason, man, I have good reasons, but a funny. Okay. Let me just think about this, man. Funny reason. Oh man, I'm so used to giving like really correct answers to VCs.
Yeah.
A funny reason, that's a difficult one. Like maybe to do like some really kind of like do some really insane marketing stunts to grow the community. Like let's say we want to build an ethical AI agent or something like that, which will, man, I can only give serious answers. What is this? This is too difficult.
Okay, let's go to the next one here. What's a silly reason you once cried, Buster?
A silly reason? Oh man, these are, you call them rapid fire. These are very deep questions. A silly reason. Oh yeah, okay. So the last time I actually cried was when I was recently rewatching all the Rocky movies.
Which movie?
The Rocky movies, Rocky
the
Balboa.
Rocky movies.
And there was a scene where they're on the beach, and then like Adrian does like a speech to him of like why he's like, why he is who he is, and that cried.
Yeah. No. Of course you cry. I think all men cry. I there's probably 2 good spots in the movie where I cry, where I think when he's actually fighting and he tells his coach or whatever, I'm not going down again, or something like that. I thought to me it was like a good crying scene. And there's a few other ones too. Yeah.
I get
Okay. Last question for you, Buster. Instead of a fear of failure, you have a fear of blank.
Yeah, man. I mean, my big fear is not like getting the fullest out of, this short life, and not getting So the fear of failure is really kind of like almost non-existent in my head, because my big fear is like not getting everything that I possibly can out of it. So I think that's kind of like the inverse.
Yeah. Now I understand. It's like, for decisions, a lot of people will have a hard time making decisions. For me, it's like, hey, if I don't do this later on down the road, am I going to regret it? And it's just like a simple way of like making that decision.
Oh man, I have somebody that should hear this. That's all I'm going to say. But
okay. All right. Hey, Buster, thank you so much for being on Innovators Can Laugh. Everybody, hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to put links to Fruitpunch.ai in the show notes. And for those listening, you heard Buster's story. Check in next week. We've got another Dutch entrepreneur that will be on the show. And until then, Buster, how do you say goodbye in Dutch?
Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Buster.
Thanks for being a great host. Ciao, ciao.
Yeah.